So it was last Caribbean cruise that I got to sit up here in front of you, and I shared that I had met my dream woman on the Caribbean cruise in 2008, and while we were listening to you speak in the introduction, you brought up football, and my question came clear to me. So at the age of 6 is the first time that I remember having two distinct dreams in terms of energy. And then at the age of 12, I had them labeled for exactly what they are. And those two things were to find true love, a relationship, true love, and to play professional sports. So I went through going from 12 years old thinking I can do anything, and feeling the support of family and friends in many of the sports side of things, and having a relationship at that time that was the termed puppy love, and all my bells were ringing and all the rest. And that relationship had contrast and fell out of order. And then my sports still gave me the joy until I reached 18 years old. And at 18 years old, pre-18, you're told everything is possible, you can play pro sports, and many people believe in you. Post-18, you're told you're crazy if you think you can play pro sports, if you're not, LeBron James and getting a $70 million contract to have a Sprite sponsorship or something like that. So
who's telling you pre-18? Where did that information come from?
The feeling that I felt I had the ability, one, and then family and friends that watched me that saw my talent. So basically I was in the vortex when I was playing, I feel.
So were they responding to your belief?
Yeah, I would say that makes sense.
And who afterward is telling you that you're crazy? The same people?
Yeah, like I was told, maybe it's time to focus on your school more than your
By
sports.
the same people?
Yeah.
And were they still responding to your belief?
Yeah, I think so, because my belief did change.
So they're irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Because you always get back what you're putting out. But that's an interesting distinction, isn't it? Because you presented it as if they have some power in your experience. Mm-hmm. So a purer way, a more accurate way of speaking this was, Abraham, I'm not sure why, but before I was 18, I believed more
mm-hmm.
than, and was it the day you turned 18 that you stopped believing?
It's close though.
And what happened around that time?
Well, I was playing with or trying out for a certain team that is another step, and
before you were 18, were you playing?
No, of course.
Where?
Mostly Western Canada,
in what tournaments?
Hockey. I was playing hockey.
And in what environment?
Arenas, rinks, small towns.
And under what authority? Professional, amateur,
no, it was
college,
amateur. It was
high school,
junior A.
And so, and what kind of feedback were you getting from them during that time?
Well, I have a distinct moment where everything came to an apex. So I was 18 years old playing in a game that was the final tryout, and I had the best game I ever had. And I would use something back then called visualization. And I would visualize everything in my mind that I wanted to do, and that all occurred in one game. And at the end of the game, an abrupt end came to the moment, and every single person on the team was saying, "You're getting signed to the contract. You get a contract, right?" And I was, totally calm and at ease. And then I sat down with the coach who I was actually living with, and he said, "Sorry, bad news. There's another person who's coming from a higher league that will be taking your spot, and we can only have so many people from your province, so I'm so sorry. I'll help you in any way I can to find another team." But by that time, I felt complete satisfaction with how well I played and how I'd visualized everything and it came about. But then I felt kind of like, okay, this isn't fun to me anymore. Like I just want to have the joy with it. So I just ended up going and changing the position that I played and playing for fun, which was great. But then I went on in years and got to the point where I was 25, 26, and I was like, man, did I waste my talent and what I had by what I called at the time giving up and going into something else that was fun. And the dilemma that I had for many years here was that pro sports, you only have a certain window of time. Every other career, if it's acting, if it's, you know, being a musician, business, I can do that till the end of my days in the professional sports world. So that was kind of something that gave me angst, I guess, or gave me a little bit of frustration.
Well, it's not unusual to be wise in the way of the world, in the sense that it's a small window, you say, or because I missed that opportunity, the next opportunity didn't come quickly, and of course you are feeling disappointment. And so in those moments of disappointment, you were not making in the vortex kinds of decisions, because it's sort of what we were affirming with these cards. The game that we were playing here is that when something happens, when you really, really want something and it doesn't happen, the disappointment is really, really strong. So then if that disappointment is carried within you, and now you're making your decisions from that disappointed feeling, that's when you start giving up on your desires. In other words, I'll switch positions. I'll do something entirely different than I really wanted to do, because through the eyes of disappointment, I can't even see clearly what it is I wanted to do. We want you to know that at any point, when you talk about actors they're not limited by this age thing. Well, we want to say that no one is unless they believe that they are. We want to say to you that your ability to focus, the agility of your body, your muscle response to the training that you do, the cellular response to the vibrational energy that you're projecting, there is no reason for there to be any kind of diminishment, especially in these early decades of your life experience. In other words, you have the ability to be as robust as you are willing to be. But what you are describing here is sort of what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about this great big world out there full of all kinds of sages who will give you all kinds of admonitions and all kinds of statements that just are not true. They just do not square with the laws of the universe as we know them to be. And it is our absolute knowing that outside of everything in terms of action is this vortex which allows all things that are wanted. So when someone says something like, did I give up on my dream? That's a common expression. We want to put that in different terms. We want to say it's not giving up on a dream. It's trying to see it through eyes that are outside the vortex. And your dream, when you're outside the vortex, looks all blurry and squirrely and impossible, while a dream from inside the vortex comes into a way of seeing it and knowing it. In other words, that's what you were describing as that happened to you in that game where you were so tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You will never forget the clarity that you felt. It was as if you were the master not only of your universe but of all universes. You could feel that things were just coming around you in a synchronistic way. You felt that power. And the reason that your disappointment was so great was because in the height of your most profound connection to source energy in alignment with your most powerful desire that you'd carved out over a very long period of time, in the height of all of that power and expectation, someone from the outside pronounced you unqualified for something, for one small prize that you were reaching for, and the disappointment of that was so devastating that you had a strong and powerful outside the vortex period of time. And during that time you began making decisions that were not in keeping with what was in the vortex. Now, what we want to convey to you, to all of you, but we really want you to hear this, is that dream that you said, that you let go of your dream, the source within you never lets go of any dream that you have. It's still active. It's still at its highest peak. It, in fact, is higher than it was on the day that you played that powerful, unbelievable game. That's where the frequency of that still is. So The source within you has not let go of your dream, but you have to find a way of getting in there where it is and holding yourself in there long enough that you tune to it. And you're right, there'll be plenty of people that are telling you you're crazy. There'll be plenty of people who have never spent an afternoon in the vortex in their entire life. There are plenty of people that will teach you the reality of life as they know it to be, because they believe in puppy love. They know that the puppy's not smart enough to know what it can't do. In other words, it hasn't had its enthusiasm trained out of it yet. It's still simple enough and pure enough to be a vibrational match to its own desires, you see. And you can be too. You keep redefining, you think that you keep redefining your dreams by settling for something that is less and less and less. But we're here to tell you, and we so love giving this to you. In fact, it's the most powerful exchange that we've ever had on this topic of vortex, being in the vortex and not being in the vortex. You can settle for less, but your inner being won't. And when you do, you separate yourself from your inner being, and that's your problem. In other words, the problem is you settling when your inner being won't. It isn't anything about the manifestations that come about, you see. So you might want to have a talk with your inner being. Damn you, inner being. You're holding me to standards that I gave up a long time ago. And your inner being says, you didn't just build it to that point when you were 18 and then start tearing it down. You've been building it ever since. In other words, it's bigger now than it was then. And you have to find a way of coming into alignment with it, you see. And what we want you to do, to understand, is that coming into alignment with it doesn't mean taking action. It doesn't mean finding some team that will sign you. It doesn't mean taking action this red hot minute. It means coming into alignment with what feels good. It means getting on any subject. Being in love is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It means getting in on any subject. Get on any subject that will give you some in the vortex time. You could be completely off the subject of your sports career, completely off the subject. As long as you're in the vortex will keep sweeping you upward and sweeping you upward and sweeping you upward. And when you allow yourself to be in sync with what's there, and it's still there, then law of attraction will bring the means, and you will be able to see the path, you see. But when you look for the path before you're there, you can't see it, and then you pronounce it not possible when it is.